Good morning, everyone. This is Ron. It is Saturday morning, a little after 10 a.m., and we will get started with our day. Uh, we will start with questions and or comments to see if there's something you wish to talk about, something that has grabbed your attention for this week that you wish to discuss. Anyone?
Well, good morning, Ron. I first would like to start out with what you just shared with us prior
Good
to
morning.
coming on. Good morning, Ron. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, what you shared with us just before we got started, I feel too that was so powerful because what you were basically saying in the spirit is to be sensitive to everything, to be aware,
Everything.
to pay attention of everything. And I think that that's what is placing us where we are in the moment of just realizing that everything we say, everything we do, has purpose and has meaning. So I really, again, concur with what was said already in terms of what you just spoke. So thank you so much again for what you shared.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
The thing that it made me think about is some years ago, a pastor talking to us about the car keys. You know, you losing your car keys and let the car keys find you, kind of thing. We don't in our Western minds we don't think like that. We don't think uh, that being one with your environment, being one with everything, uh, really makes sense to us. You know, that has become us yet. So that was a unique experience for me. Really, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Ron, this is Barbara. Your moment was like the pay attention moment that I had years ago, and it's just
Okay.
to be present. Don't
Yeah.
when you're thinking about something else instead of having your mind on what you should be doing, just to be present, pay attention, because that pay attention moment uh, kind of uh, reminds you that yeah, something else could happen while you're uh, what do you call it, daydreaming. You weren't daydreaming, but I'm just
Yeah.
making examples.
Yeah.
But while you're weaving baskets in your mind, instead of attending to the moment, uh, you're opening yourself up for other things.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. You're exactly right. It was definitely a learning experience. Definitely. And one part I didn't share. Uh, this happened Monday, and that night I had gone to bed kind of with a little anxiety just because I had some things to do over the weekend that I didn't get done. And I'm like, oh shoot, it's Monday again. Uh, Here we go again. You know, I got to wait another week to. And so, but when I woke up that morning, because I woke up before my clock goes off, which I do many mornings, and I pray and meditate and get my start for my day. And one of the things I said was, today is going to be different. Today I'm not going to wish Monday away. I'm not going to let the gloom of Monday capture me. I'm going to have a different Monday. It's going to be good. I'm going to see some light in Monday. And that's what happened. But that was the first thing I thought about, you know. So, but anyone
Uh,
else, any comment?
good, good morning, everyone. And listening to your story about the box cutter, Ron, um, there are some, if that box cutter left a scar on your body, every time you look at that scar, you will have some kind of memory bank of what took place. So there are some scars on my body. I got 14 stitches on my Achilles tendon, and that scar is going to be with me for a while. However, every time I
Hmm.
look at that scar and I touch that scar, I know I got the scar because I didn't follow instructions.
Yeah,
Toe boots. You know, I
yeah,
I don't think grits gravy. Fritz Groceries, I think I can just do what I want to do out here. So there are some scars that are on my body that I remember why that scar is there. Like if and some of these scars are, over 2 decades old. So it may be the same for you 16 years down the road. You will look at that scar and your memory bank will be like it was just yesterday of what took place. Thank you.
That's an interesting point, George, because that is kind of how I see it. I did not put it in those words when it happened, of course, but I see it as my experiences, and those scars represent your life experiences that have led you to this point, and some of it at the time may not have been the most pleasant experience, but it was something that caused you to turn to where you are now. So all these things that happen to us work for our good if we are seeking that, or we choose to see it that way. But that's a very good point.
Ron,
Yes, sir.
that works with our emotional scars too. Emotional scars can be, most of them are traumatic. However, they are a reminder of what we've been through. And when I think about some of the scars that I received during this transitional period from religion to where we are, those scars are, at one point they hurt when I thought about it, because of the people who I have trust in, who were the ones who gave me those scars, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, now what I've learned to do is to gain strength from them. When it rises up inside of me, or memory comes to me of what happened during those periods, I see those periods now as being turning points that gave me a stronger resolve to move in the direction that I'm moving in, as opposed to retreating. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. And,
All right.
and you're exactly, yes, ma'am.
Go ahead and finish your statement.
No, I was just saying that fits. Just saying all that fits to again to what we're talking about, what George said. But yes.
I wanted to go back to something you shared, and I think you shared it. I don't know if it's unconscious, but consciously. You said that Monday you wished you could skip it, but then when you said it was going to be a good day, it was a good day. And it just reminded me that we do choose how things will happen by the emotions and the feelings and the words we attach to it. And those words can be in our mind as well. And so when we call it, when you say, I wish I could skip Monday, or I want to skip Monday, it has the implication that Monday does not have as much joy or as much purpose or as much power as any of the other days. And every moment, regardless of the label we put on it, has the same degree of power if we choose to give it to it. Thank you.
You're exactly right. Thank you. Thank you.
And with my emotional scars, it helped me to help somebody else. Things that I went through from the time I came out of work, it helped me to help somebody else come through what I went through because of their struggles that they were having. I'm finished.
Yeah, that too is very powerful, Kathy. You're exactly right. Thank you. anyone else on either on this subject or something else that may have your attention or any questions you may have? Thank you. It's been a good week. It's been a good week. I took some advice that we talked about last week. I did not spend every day looking at the news. There are some things I did not watch. I've spent more time thinking and meditating, and I've had a very good week. I want to share something with you that I was reading. A rabbi said something, and it got my attention, and I thought this would be a good place for us to start and look at this. But let's look at John 14, those first 4 verses, if you would, please. John 14. And it is a scripture that most of us anyway are quite familiar with. John 14 starts off and says, let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you, but I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way that, well, probably the first 3 verses, but I'll read the 4th verse anyway. And you know the way where I am going. Yeah, that fits in too. What got my attention on this? I was reading an article that a rabbi had written, and I'll tell you about the article, but it was about holiness, what it means to be holy. And he used this verse as his example. And I go to prepare a place for you. I will come again and receive you to myself, and where I am, there you may be also. And I had never thought about that as being holy, and that got my attention. Of course, he used the part of the definition. Of course, he used part of the definition that we have used for holiness, the creating space to receive, moving self out of the way to be consecrated, to be put aside. He talked about that, but he talked about it from a different place as well, or to add to, probably not different, add to. For example, he said that you're being set apart for a specific purpose, and that purpose is not necessarily something that you may always be aware of. But there comes the word prepare, and which we'll get into in just a minute. But when you look at this, the way he said, you cannot talk about creating the space without talking about the word holy, how it's spelled, rather the Hebrew letters, and it is spelled Kuf, Dialect, and Shin. And Kuf, he says, Kuf means to make a sacrifice as you prepare, a sacrifice in your preparation. So what is your sacrifice? Dialect speaks to a doorway being open, a doorway or a gate or a portal that is being opened. And Shin talks about the power and joy and oneness that you get with the Creator that through walking through this portal. So this is what is added to his being consecrated and being set aside for a purpose. He's looking at that. Looking at the sacrifice being made and what is the preparation. So I thought that was interesting. So before we open this up and talk about it, because I want everybody to think about that, and let's kind of get your see what everybody says about this. The word, this thing here, in my Father's house are many dwelling places, were not so. Okay, now when you look this up, and I went back and did some research on this, and looking at it from the Hebraic understanding is this. This word for house, in my Father's house, really refers to a temple or a tabernacle. It is not talking about a house at all. And I'll want to say this for clarity reasons before I go any further. There may be someone on the line that is freshly coming out of religion, and what we do is kind of take a scripture like this and kind of break it down, and you'll hear me talk about, or hear us talk about, Hebrewic terms, Aramaic terms, because those were the languages that the original text was written in. So this is what we talk about, are talking about when you hear us say Aramaic. It is what Jesus was speaking. So the language in red is reason why that is important to us. And to go back and look at the Hebrew or history of this, because that is what this is actually based on. This is not based on Greek culture. This is based on the history of the Hebrews from the Old Testament. Okay, so please, if that is confusing, maybe someone ask a question, and hopefully this will make sense, because you're going to hear probably say some things that may not be things you have heard. Like, for example, one of the things that we have been taught or led to believe of this is this is talking about the by and by. I'm going to prepare a place for you, like this means when you pass on, when you transition and on the other side, but that is not what this is talking about at all. So I think we're at that state now, and very much so it is talking about an awakening. So we'll get into that as we go on here. Again, let me explain this part, and then I'll see if there are any questions. This word mansion or dwelling place has a history as well. In these times, in Jesus' time, in the times of the Old Testament, what took place was a man was betrothed to a woman, and that went on for a year. But even after they were married, they could not consummate the marriage for a year. There was a space in between them that they had to, it was allowed for them to fall in love, to get in touch with each other, to see each other. So everything was, you could spend time with each other, but there was no physical contact. So she was encouraged to stay in her father's house, as was he in his father's house. But with him, he had a preparation to make. Meaning, if he did not stay in his father's house, he could stay in her father's house, but he had to build a separate room onto the house to do so. The customary thing was, though, for him to return to his father's house and build a separate dwelling onto that. So when you talk about a mansion back then was a place that was a small house, a small family dwelling that had many rooms or many dwelling places attached to it, meaning that there had been additions to that from sons and or daughters getting married, but primarily sons. So they did not stay in that small family dwelling. They stayed in that addition, and that's what made it a mansion. So the other thing that was that stood out to me about this, it says, in my father's house are many dwelling places. Well, that dwelling places in the original text was singular, it's not plural. So it reads, in my Father's house are many a dwelling place. So that kind of speaks to you as well when you stop to look at that. So with those explanations of what we're looking at here, what do you see here? What additional thing do you see? What is the sacrifice? And I'll go into prepare in a minute, but I need to see if there are any questions, because I know I've said a couple of things here, but is this clear so far?
It is to me.
Y'all talk to me if there are any questions. It's something I wasn't clear about. I know it's a little different than what we are used to. But before we get into the what the sacrifice is or what you're preparing, I just want to make sure we kind of got an understanding of what is being said and looking at the history of it. Is that part clear?
For me, Ron, so far, I think I'm understanding. I believe I'm understanding it.
Okay. So then I'm gonna kind of go into prepare then. Prepare is extremely interesting to me, and this kind of sets the tone for the whole thing. Prepare is breaking up two words, pre and pair. Pre means beforehand, of course, and prepare. The word pair talks about what has been accomplished or confirmed by what you have done. So let's say, for example, that I invite everybody over this phone over my place for dinner. I have no idea how many people are on this phone. I have no idea what the cost would be. But the pre part is in my heart, and I have to have idea that I can handle this. I have to have it already set in my mind, no matter what this costs, and I don't mean monetarily, but what it costs as a sacrifice for me to do, this is something I must do. So the pre part is my thought ahead of time. The pre part is I am readying myself for this part to do the task. So when I find out what the task is, I will not feel overwhelmed by it, because I've already pre myself for this. And I know that I can handle whatever is to take place. So when you talk about this thing, I've already allowed myself the space to see that what is about to take place, you have already been equipped to do. You are already empowered to do this thing. So when you look at this, the sacrifice we see on Jesus' part, he says, I go to prepare a place as though he is the bridegroom. Think about the example of the bridegroom. He says the house is the temple, meaning it is the holy place. It is the place that is consecrated for this purpose. It is the place for a dwelling place for the children of the bride I'm mixing myself up, but for those who follow the word, those who are following truth. So this is a dwelling place for that purpose only. For that purpose only. So when Jesus says, I am going to prepare a place, it is talking about, if you look at the example, that has been promised to me, that which I have married, that part that I have attached myself to. So that to me takes on a different meaning other than what we have I've seen this to be. Anyone see anything different here?
Ron,
Yes, sir.
let me see if I'm hearing it. So Jesus is saying that don't be disturbed. Don't why not? Because I'm going to create the space for you to be just as I am. What he's saying to us is that you don't have to feel like there's not a space for you, because where in the space of where my Father dwells, there are many spaces. There's enough space for everyone. So the space that's being created for you is for you to be as I am. And I think he means that when he says that where I am, there you shall be also. I am in this space of holiness because of the truth journey that I travel. And this same space is available to you. And when your desire becomes strong to the extent that you become intimate with this, you will be in that same space that I'm in. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. That's it exactly. And to add something, Pastor, what you said, I said there are many matches. It is many a dwelling place. In other words, it doesn't matter how diverse you are. It doesn't matter that you started from a different place than I did or Charles did or anybody else. If your heart is in the right place, meaning if you are searching for truth, there is a place for you too. It may not look like what someone else's looks like.
And regardless of where you start on the journey or when, everyone is in the same space.
Yes.
Any questions about that? Comment?
Good morning, everyone. Ron, so far what I have taken, and someone correct me if I'm incorrect, when you talk about the dwelling and when the son goes out and marries, and the son comes out of a home that's 1,200 square foot, the son go out and get married, he adds on an addition. Or he may add with his family 400 square foot. So 1,200 and 400, that's a 1,600 square foot. Then the next son. Then from there, you have a lot of square footage added on to the home. So what I take from that is your greatest investment is always your family. And when I look at that from my experiences, when my mother was living, she would go to the hospital. I'd tell her, hey, Mama, Drayton got a basketball game. I'll be down there Monday. And my mother would laugh. My daddy didn't take it so well. He didn't raise no sand about it. Yet my greatest investment is my family. So that's what I take from it, that, you know, you can't go wrong investing in your family. Is 401k a good investment? Some say yes, some say no. Then from there, create a New Faith and Foundation. Y'all my family. Gotta make sure you're good. My community, I gotta make sure my neighbor's good now. So am I incorrect in what you're trying to deliver and taking it like that? Or am I correct in looking at it like that?
Yeah, you are correct, George. I did not see it from the looking at it at that being the main focus of it, but I see what you're saying, and yeah, that is correct. The other part of that I saw when you said that is, we in our Western thinking, think that something like this belittles us because I don't have my own place. Why do I need to attach to this or that? Or I am my own man. I am standing alone. And I think that's one of the big things that comes out of this. And I didn't see it till you say that. This is community. This is love. This is unity. And we have been taught about separateness and to be on my own, and the strength is in the family. So this love and this unity is made stronger by making that 1,200 square foot house into a mansion. So yeah, that does fit.
Pastor,
I go ahead.
could you repeat what you said before? I mean, I couldn't get all of it, but it sounded like something that really resonated with me. Could you repeat it, please?
You talking about me or George?
You.
Oh, I said, I think you're talking about when I said that what Jesus is talking about.
Yes.
That okay? There's a space for everyone. When he talks about in my Father's house, and when your desire is to be intimate with the Father, there is always room for you, regardless of when you start the journey. The space, there's always space for you. I think that's what you're talking about. I think that's what I said.
Okay, because I was thinking that it kind of dovetailed back into what we were talking about on Monday, and the fact that there are many paths to there. There's space for everyone. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there is space for everyone, regardless of the starting point of your journey, or regardless of where you are in your journey. I see that in that way, but also see when George was talking, what I saw in addition to that is that there is always there is a continuation of the expanding the family. The expansion of the family, meaning that regardless of how the space looks, when your desire is for you to be intimate with the Creator, then you will find that there is space for you as well. Because if you look at it the way George talked about it in a physical way, if you look at it, the only thing you see is 1,200 square feet. But when you your desire is for you to be one with the Father, then what happens is that space is created there. You see that there is space for you as well. So now you see an expansion of it that you did not see beforehand. Does that make sense, Audrey?
Yeah. Thank you.
I was in conversation with one of Stephen's doctors, and during our conversation, she was talking about her family in India, and she said that what happened is that in Pakistan. What happens is that when her brother got married, they built another level to the house, and when her other brother got married, they continued to build levels to the house until now they had 4 levels to the house, and that is for everyone to be under the same roof so they can take care of each other, because there is no Social Security, there are no social nets, safety nets there to take care of you when you get older or when you get sick, for that matter. So if we see it in that way, we see it as a chuppah, that Llewellyn speaks of a chuppah, a place where intimacy takes place. As each one of those brothers of hers were married, and every time they added a layer to the house, or another floor to the house, it was an expansion of the intimacy that they were sharing with each other. And every time that allele was added, there was someone who was brought into that family who was not there originally. So I see that as that floor that they started with was the beginning of the journey. And as the journey continued, there were others brought in, and in bringing them in, it created a place of intimacy for them so that they could be one with the family as well. And when you see, I see that in a spiritual sense, of course, but that came to me when George was talking about the expansion of the house. Thank you.
This is Barbara. I can see what you're saying because when you go back a couple of verses, what John said related to Jesus saying something about love. If you love me, I have to go back to 13. Sorry about that. A new commandment I give you, that you love one another. And when George was talking, it reminded me of, okay, if I have to be mindful of my family and check on my neighbors and see how my coworkers are doing. Well, when you translate that into the spiritual, it's that concept of love, and that love knows no boundaries, Love is not based merely on who I am biologically. It's beyond the boundaries of my genes. It's beyond the boundaries of who my mother and father are. Genuine love that he's talking about. And so if that love has no boundaries and you're creating that spiritual house has no boundaries, which is what you're saying, I think I hear when you say there is always space. There's always space within the confines of that spiritual house, which has no boundaries anyway. And it's based on love. Thank you.
Barbara, could you please say that last part again? You were cutting out a little bit.
Sorry,
Please.
what I was saying was Jesus was saying that in chapter 13, he gave them a new commandment, that they love one another as he loved them. And he's saying that you'll know you're my own. We are one. We're together by how we love one another. And I don't know if you heard what I said when George was talking. He was talking about I've got to check on those in my realm, my family, those I'm on, blah blah blah. So what I'm saying is love knows no boundaries. And from a spiritual perspective, Pastor was talking about where you create that space. Well, when we love based on what the Bible talks about and how the Bible defines love has no boundaries. And so whenever there is always that space for another. In other words, my house is not that physical house. It's that spiritual one. And there is always room. There's always space for another. And it could be space for another that's not necessarily my relative, not necessarily someone that I agree totally with, because there are people we don't agree with a lot of what they say, but we see the divinity in them, and the love that we have goes beyond the physical kinds of things that they might think, say, or do. That instead of building a wall, we've got to tear the wall down and love them for the divinity in them. So there's always even space for those who don't know who they are, in a sense. That makes sense, if that resonates. That
really ties it all together. Yeah, it does resonate. I want to add this part onto it. This is just a continuation. if you can see the image or imagine yourself being a bridegroom, and again, this is being the bride, actually being a bride. He says, and if verse 3, if I go and prepare a place, in other words, that is the addition, that is the addition onto the house. I will come again and receive you. Now, in the first verse here, he said, let not your heart be troubled. In other words, know who you are attached to. Don't let something come between us. We have been apart for a year, and I'm thinking about the betrothal, all the way. The example I gave of this marriage, I'm just using this as an example. As has been said, this is a spiritual thing, and I want somebody to help me tie it together. So the bridegroom is saying, look, don't be troubled by whatever has come up, because the pre-part, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for whatever happens. There's nothing that can come between us. We are one. This is again, Bobby just said, this love has no boundaries. So the pre-part has prepared me for everything, and you trust that I am making this ready. And he says, I will come again. I'm going to come to your father's house and get you. I've been gone for a year, and I'm so in between this time, it is a space. The space is for us to get acquainted, get to know each other. We have this time to build an intimacy that is not physical, but we have a time to build an intimacy based on our hearts, based on love and compassion, and us growing together. And I'm going to come again, and I'm going to receive you to myself as your bridegroom, as your husband. I'm going to receive you. We are one. You are going to see me shortly, and where I am, you may be also. So in other words, again, if you think about the lessons that we have had, George has done one, Pastor's done one, and we've all talked about the I am. We can't talk about that enough. The literal translation of this is I, and that second I, that smaller I, is whatever Ron is. Ron comes under submission of the bigger I. So I am in unison with the love and compassion of the rhythm and the thing we say, well, does this resonate with you? This feeling, these experiences that I'm building up that has not been physical yet, but I'm building up, I'm establishing an experience with you. And once we do that, once we coupled, all those experiences come to life. So here it is, as the bridegroom, that preparation is part of the sacrifice, and that is the coupling and the growing of the love is the understanding and the experiencing it for themselves. And I'm talking a lot. So what do you guys see in this based on what has already been said? Help me tie that part on, please.
Which part specifically are you talking about, Ron?
Verses 3 and 4, just 3 and 4 really goes back to verse 1 to me, as in the bride saying to your bride, don't be troubled, don't let this delay or because I'm not always in your vision, don't let this trouble you. Know who you are, know who I am, and trust in this. So I am going to prepare this place for you. This mansion, so to speak, is being prepared with you in mind. That's why it is a mansion. It is a dwelling place because each one, there is one prepared for Barbara, there's one prepared for James, there's one prepared for Audrey, for Kathy. So don't be troubled. Don't let. Okay, go ahead. I've said enough.
Okay. No, don't say that. When I look at this, first of all, when you read that verse, let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. This is an assumption that you have been introduced to the reality as who Elohim is. When he says, don't be upset, don't be troubled. Just as you believe in God, believe also in me. What he's saying is that there is no difference between Elohim and me. And then he goes on to say, in the dwelling place of Abram, or in the house of Abram, there are many places. I'm telling you that there's room for you, no matter how many there are. There is space for you, and the reason it's there is because I'm there to prepare it. The preparation of it actually is by what Jesus taught. When Jesus said, believe in me, he's not talking about believe in me, the man. He's talking about embracing what he taught. Embrace the teachings, and what you will see as a result of that is that there is always space for you, because what I am teaching you, what you are embracing, is preparing that space for you. And certainly, if I prepare the space for you, I will come to you, because that word again is not there. That was added. I will come to you. And what I will do is receive you. He's saying if you embrace what I am teaching, then you will be received by me, meaning that you will become one with me. And where I am is, that's where you will be also. You will be no different than I am. And the method, or the way that you know, the way that I'm going, you are intimate with the way to get there, and the intimacy with that of how to get there with that journey comes from the knowing. It comes from the belief, or the trusting, or having confidence in what Jesus taught, and that confidence in what he taught leads us to see that no matter how many there are, there comes to this place of belief, there is always room. The space is always there. And that space is there for what purpose? That space is there because you are being set aside for a specific purpose in that space. And the purpose for which you are being set aside is for you to bring others along this journey with you. Does that make sense, Ron?
Yes, sir. The part up about holy. I said kuf, dialect, and shin. One is prepared to make a sacrifice, and your sacrifice is your preparation. You went into the dialect, which is the doorway when you spoke about you know the way. This is the knowing, the having confidence in what Jesus taught, and you said more than that. But the shin is the reward that you get when you recognize that I and the Father are one. The peace and the joy that comes behind that. So, sure.
The first letter is kuf, the leg,
Yeah.
and shin.
Yes.
Kuf speaks to the idea of sacrifice, right? So
Yes.
what it's talking about, it's not talking about giving up anything. What it's talking about is creating a space For example, the space that religion took up in our hearts, in our minds, that space that had to be uprooted, and the uprooting of it created.
Why are you on my bumper? You can just go around.
Please, your phone. To make sure your phones are muted, please. That space that was created by the removal or the uprooting of those religious concepts gave us opportunity to pass through this door or this portal, so that we were able to see the oneness that we are with our Creator. Does that make sense? That's holiness.
Yes. I just want to make sure it makes sense to everybody else. Anybody else see this or see something to add on to it, or make sure we understand it?
I have a follow-up about sacrifice. Pastor, you said that we didn't sacrifice anything, but we create space.
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Please
What I said
clarify.
was we didn't. It's not so much giving up anything as it is uprooting something.
Oh, okay. Like those our selfish desires and those things that drive us.
Yes.
Those are the kinds of things we have to uproot.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good question. Good question.
So, what are the letters again? Bet, Dalet, and Shin?
No, Kuf, Dalet, and Shin.
Oh, Kuf, which is...
Yeah, K-U-P. Yeah, Kuf. K-U-F. Kuf.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I want to say this to us. You know, we get on the phone sometimes, and sometimes 99% of the time I'm nervous to get on the phone. But here's my confidence. My confidence is that if I see a piece of something or a little something, we all come together and see it and straighten it out. And I love that everybody adds a little bit. You add it with your questions, you add it with your comments, you add it in your explanations, you add it just by seeing a little bit of what you see and bringing it all together, and it all comes together. So, you know, that to me is the beauty of what we do, and that is also the evidence that truth is, you know, we're all have the same aim, and it is our desires to see it clearly and plainly and put it out there so that others can see it as well. Because I truly believe that when we bring enlightenment, it goes past the phone lines. It vibrates. The energy vibrates in the atmosphere. So this is a beautiful example of that, of bringing clarity to a couple of verses that we have probably read before many times, but we're just not taking anything away from that, but adding more clarity to what we had already seen. And it is understood, I'm sure, that there will be another day that we come to these verses and see even more. So, but I love this. This is beautiful when all this comes together. But any other questions or comments? Anything else you see in here?
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
So what is this saying to us? We talked about these 4 or 5 verses. What is it saying to us today? What is the application of them to where we are right now? we have to uproot the idea that these are funeral verses and see what they are saying to us at this moment. Don't be dismayed at what you see. Around you is total chaos, and it appears as though nothing is in order anymore. Don't worry about that. Don't be concerned about that.
Pastor, can I stop from? Are you moving around?
Yeah.
You're in and out on us.
Okay. Don't be concerned about that. Don't be concerned about all of the things that are surrounding you. Why? Because I have made a way for you. And the way that I've made for you is for you to embrace what I am teaching. When you embrace the teachings of Jesus, the things that beset you no longer beset you. You can look at the troubles of this world and realize that they are simply opportunities for us to bring order. They are simply pictures of what needs to be brought to a place of order. And Jesus is saying, you don't do that on your own. You do that when you are in this space that has been created for you. And the space that has been created for you is a space where you can look in the mirror of the spiritual essence of your being and see who you are. And when you see who you are, you will see your purpose. And in seeing who you are, you will see that you are no different than the one who created you. And in seeing that you are no different than the one who created you, then the one who created you is the God or the Elohim of order. And because of that, you are obligated to bring order. It doesn't look like that all the time, but don't be dismayed. And Jesus is saying to us today, all of the things that's happening in Russia, the things that's happening are in Iran, in this country, all of these things are the walls of confusion being torn down and the order that you are desiring being placed. You are beginning to see the manifestation of order. So he is saying, do not let the news change the direction of your journey. Hold on to what you know the truth to be. Live in this space. Dwell in the same place where I dwell. I am always with you. And the direction that you travel in is not a physical, geographical direction. It is a focal point. And the focal point of your experiences should always be the things that I have taught you. And the one thing that's most important that you have learned that is that we are created in the image of Elohim. Our likeness, the likeness of Elohim is the likeness of who we are. And because of that, the obligation in us takes place. We are obligated to humanity to bring order. These verses are giving us the encouragement to stand our ground. These verses are giving us the strength to hold on in the face of adversity. These verses are giving us the wisdom, the understanding, so that when we have the experiences, we will know how to deal with them and how to share them with others around us so that all of us can be on the same page. And the us of whom I speak is not just the people on this phone. It is also the people who are engaged in the tearing down of the walls of confusion. Look at what's happening, whether it be in Russia or in Iran. The leaders of these demonstrations, of these protests, are females. And when females began to move en masse, things began to change because they are birthing order into the earth. So we are not waiting for order. We are manifesting it. We see it. It is already here. These verses are just encouraging us to stay where we are. Thank you.
Questions or comments?
that make sense?
Yes, sir. Does to me. I hope it's clear, everyone.
Amen.
It's imperative that when we look at scriptures, that we don't do it like we once did it. We would look at the scriptures and we know what Jesus is saying. We understand what's being said in the book. But what application does it have to us on this journey? That's the major part of it, understanding what it means now. What was being spoken then for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that kind of sums it up, unless there are questions and/or comments. Anybody have anything to add? Well, we will ponder this and begin here tomorrow morning. Okay. If you have any questions, please jot them down or send a text, and that's where we'll begin. Okay. Meanwhile, have a beautiful Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow morning on the lines. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.